Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Elevate Worcester, Worcester Education Collaborative's first podcast, elevating the voices of our community and learning about how to best advocate for our students regarding their educational experiences and how to improve outcomes for all students. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Herring. So, as I mentioned, today is our first episode, our launch of our podcast. I am super excited. So, on this podcast, we're going to be talking not just about what the Worcester Education Collaborative does, but also some opportunities for families and community stakeholders to help engage in advocacy for all students. So, the first thing I want to do is talk about who is WEC. WEC is the Worcester Educational Collaborative. Our main focus is to work collaboratively as the critical friend of the Worcester Public Schools to improve outcomes for all students. We do this through frequent meetings with Superintendent Brian Allen, leadership in the school district, teachers, principals, and even students. And so what we hope to do is to really equip students and families with the tools that they need to really figure out how to best advocate for their students, figure out what their needs are, and then how to advocate for policies that will impact them directly at the local level within the city of Worcester or even at the state level. Additionally, what we do internally as an organization is we are the conveners of the educational stakeholders in the Worcester educational ecosystem. What that means is each month we gather with our community partners for our Worcester Equity Education Roundtable meeting. And so in those meetings, we discuss what are the equity concerns in the city? What are students talking about? What are families talking about? What do they want to see? And how can we make that happen for them? Another aspect of the Worcester Education Collaborative's work is the FACES team, the Family and Community Engagement Specialists. This is a smaller team that works to mobilize parents in particular, help them to understand what their rights are, what they are able to advocate for with their principal, their student's teacher, and really just general understanding of how the educational system works in the city of Worcester and beyond. Another aspect of the work that we do is we host relevant, timely, and meaningful events for our community, not just our equity roundtable partners, but potential partners, anyone who's kind of listening into the education conversations from the sidelines and really trying to figure out, is this work relevant to me? Do I need to be involved? And if so, how can I do that? So later on in the show, we'll be talking about a few events that we have coming up, which you're invited to really talk more about what is happening in education, have a broader conversation about how trauma impacts student learning, and how you can partner with the Worcester Education Collaborative, or WEC, to do this work with us in the near future. So next, I'd like to talk about who I am. So as I said, I'm Dr. Jennifer Herring. I am the Executive Director of the Worcester Education Collaborative. I joined last year, June of 2025. And so these past few months, I've really just been meeting people, introducing myself, having meetings, lunches, brunches, coffees, teas, to really talk about my vision for WEC, who I am and what I see happening in the future landscape of education. What are the things that I've learned in my previous roles, and how I can apply that learning to help elevate the work that's happening at WEC and in the city of Worcester for our students. What made me passionate about this work is actually my own educational journey as a child. When I was younger, I shared on another platform that I had experienced some unfortunate trauma, and that led to me having challenges all throughout my childhood in accessing my education and understanding how to best advocate for myself, and just really learn how to even articulate that I needed support. And so After I graduated from my undergraduate degree, I obtained my master's in psychology and then later went to pursue my PhD in educational studies with a focus on how sexual trauma impacts learning. And in all of that academic background, I also have professional background in supporting survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking. After I did that work, kind of in the beginning of my doctoral studies, I became more interested in education and supporting students in the classroom setting. And that led to my work as an educator, a vice principal, and eventual central office coordinator, and now here as the executive director of Worcester Education Collaborative. I'm very excited to bring my personal, professional, and academic experience to the forefront to really work with community partners to think about the best ways to support students and equip parents, caregivers, and community partners on how to best figure out what students need to learn and be their best selves. So in our next segment, we're going to talk more about what it means to be an education collaborative. What does that entail? And what does advocacy mean? What does it mean to do this work through the lens of equity? What does trauma-informed mean? So in our next segment, we're going to talk about that more. So don't forget, you're tuning in to Elevate Worcester with Worcester Education Collaborative, our first podcast, our launch of our first episode. We look forward to seeing you.
Hello, my name is Calvin Familia, president of the Manny 267 Foundation, and you are listening to Unity Radio, 97.9 FM, Worcester Community Connection.
Hey, small business owners, your company may need to file its beneficial ownership information with the federal government. It helps fight crime. Learn more at fincen.gov/BOI. That's FINCEN.gov/BOI.
Tune into the Sustainable Life with Susan Hewlett. And together, we will find our way to a healthier, healing lifestyle by listening to empowering stories of overcoming our struggles. Join me, Susan Hewlett, on the Sustainable Life every Wednesday from 5 to 6 on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. See you soon.
Support for Unity Radio 97.9 FM is provided by United Way of Central Mass, aiming to improve the community and break the cycle of poverty, and the Woosocks Foundation, seeking to make dreams come true for families in areas of education, social justice, recreation, and conquering cancer. Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, host of Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9. Black in Business is a series of conversations with influential members of the Black business community. These entrepreneurs knows what it means to risk everything to create successful businesses and spark positive changes in the community. So join us. Again, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, right here on Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9. Worcester's Community Connection.
You're listening to Unity 97.9 FM, WUTY, Worcester.
And we're back with Elevate Worcester, the first episode of the podcast of Worcester Education Collaborative, the critical friend of Worcester Public Schools. So next, we're going to discuss what is equity. So when I first opened our show, we talked about the Worcester Education Collaborative being an advocacy-based organization focused on equity and doing our work through a trauma-informed lens. And so equity really just means making sure that all students get what they need, and in an efficient way, in a timely way, and in a way that sets them up for success. It's not just about the identity of students, how they identify or what language they speak. It's actually deeper than that. It's looking at their whole selves as a human being and their learning needs, and really thinking about how can we make sure that all students have access to curriculum regardless of what they look like, where they come from, and what their academic and developmental learning needs are. So, for example, one of our most current needs academically in the district and really throughout the country is our literacy rates. And so last year, the Worcester Education Collaborative had the opportunity to advocate at the state level for legislation to be passed for the Right to Read bill. So we did this in collaboration with our coalition partners, which are our educational leaders who work on policy issues across the Commonwealth. And what we found is that unfortunately, when it comes to the right to read or the right to free, accessible public education, that kind of work has to be legislated, meaning someone has to make it law in order for the majority of folks to follow and comply with it, which is unfortunate when you think about literacy and schooling. You would think that those are things that come naturally because those are our civil rights. Unfortunately, there are some barriers and things that we're experiencing in our schools that either hinder that from happening in an equitable way, or there are just needs that come up in schools that make it challenging for schools to meet those needs. And so when you think about that, that really is what the conversation of equity is about. It's about making sure that all students, no matter how they identify and who they are and where they're coming from, that they get access to free education that is high quality, that is rooted in data and rooted in research, and that sets them up for success. And so, as I said, we had the opportunity to advocate. We're part of the powerful coalition that was able to help move forward the Right to Read bill, which ensures that all students have the right to high quality research-based literacy curriculum to hopefully then increase our literacy rates across the city of Worcester. And again, it's not just a Worcester challenge. It's a challenge that we've had since even before the pandemic. But of course, since COVID, we know that a lot of these challenges that we're seeing in our school systems have been exacerbated. And so our hope for WEC is that we can be the bridge between what students need and what the actual capacity is for school districts within schools within Worcester to make that happen, and really serve as the connector and the convener of that work, which is the purpose for our equity roundtable meetings with our community partners. The second focus that WEC will be using to drive our work this year is to pursue the work of informing and educating the community around what it means to be more trauma informed in our approach to education. So in my personal academic and professional experience, we know that trauma is very prevalent, unfortunately. We have a general understanding of how trauma impacts learning and how it impacts the day-to-day. But there's not as much research out there as we would like to see on how trauma impacts learning and how to support teachers and principals in elevating that work and making sure that families understand how to support their child's learning in school and at home. And so these are really complex ideas, and it's not anything that we hope to solve overnight, but it's at least a conversation starter to get families and community partners on board with what it takes to ensure equity of access to education across the board for all students, but also adding the additional layer in of How do we support students that have experienced severe trauma? And not just severe trauma, but even just basic direct or indirect exposure to trauma from the COVID-19 pandemic, and what that means for students and what that means for just the general state of our schools and students and education in general. And so that is what we hope to accomplish with the Worcester Education Collaborative this year. And later on, we're going to talk about our meetings and events that we use to kind of leverage our relationships and our partnerships in our local and statewide community to really elevate the work and highlight and amplify for folks what does it mean to support students. What does it mean to support student learning? And what does it mean to make sure that we're constantly keeping equity and student experiences at the center of what we do, and empowering all of us who love our students and our children to really understand how to learn how they learn best and how to best advocate for them so that they get the richest and best experience out of their schooling as possible. So we'll be back with more from the Worcester Education Collaborative at Elevate Worcester.
Hey, this is Ricky Duran, and you're listening to Unity Radio on 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
How's business?
Good. Are you up to speed with the new beneficial ownership reporting requirements?
Sort of. What's it about?
It's a new initiative to help fight crimes like money laundering, fraud, and drug trafficking. A lot of small businesses like ours just have to report some basic info to the federal government about the real people behind them.
Reporting your company's beneficial ownership information is quick, secure, and free, and it helps protect U.S. national security. Learn more at fincen.gov/BOI.
Kingdom Voice and Music and Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester, present a Black History Month celebration, Courage to Remember. Join us as we share powerful stories of African royalty, generational heritage, and our living legends through music, theater, and dance. Our Black History Month celebration, Courage to Remember, also highlights Alzheimer's and dementia in the African American community, providing resources, awareness, and hope, alongside cultural food and local vendors showcasing their work. Don't miss our Black History Month celebration, Courage to Remember, February 28th at the Pryor Performing Arts Center in Worcester. For more information, visit kirosha.com/Black History, KIROSHA.com/Black History. Black History Month celebration, Courage to Remember. Celebrate with us.
Tune in to Affirmations with Alex, and together we will affirm our way to a healthier mindset by listening to empowering messages. Hi, I'm Alex from Affirmations with Alex. Join me every Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection.
Life is like a roller coaster. It has its high and low moments, zooming through our lives. Sometimes we feel excited and full of joy, and other times we feel numb to the world around us. Low moments are a part of life. They help us cherish the good times. That's why it's important to reach out when life's lows stop us in our tracks. Connect with someone now. Call 211 or text 988.
You're listening to Unity Radio, Worcester's Community Connection.
Welcome back to Elevate Worcester. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Herring, Executive Director of Worcester Education Collaborative. So during this segment, I'd love to talk to you about how it's been going so far. So as I shared earlier, I started this role June of last year, and it has been very interesting. So when I came in, I had an idea of my vision, what I wanted to do, who I wanted to engage, how I was going to help support the team in moving this work forward. So I spent the first few weeks getting to know people in the community, getting to know who they were. I wanted them to know who I was, and what the general needs were. We also hosted a series of listening sessions. We had some with families. We had some individual listening sessions. We also hosted one with our community and nonprofit leaders in the city of Worcester, which we were able to learn a lot about what the students need. One of the major themes that came up for us during that listening session was access to after school programs. This has been something that has been a challenge for the city, not just because of budget restraints, but really spatial restraints. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, we've had an increase in enrollment, and that has been good in some senses, but also has created some challenges around availability of space, class size, and just our general capacity as a city to really accommodate all of the out of school time needs that are coming up since enrollment had increased. So we had our listening sessions. We had our annual meeting, which was very exciting. We hosted Kwame Owusu Kese, who is the CEO of the Harlem Children's Zone in New York. And he shared with us his experience in creating neighborhood place-based schooling approaches to education for students. And basically, what we learned from him and his work is that it works to have a community-based approach to schooling for students, collaborating with one another, streamlining processes for families and caregivers, and really being thoughtful about what are the opportunity gaps that we're seeing in our schools, and how can we not just hold our schools accountable to closing those opportunity gaps, but also holding ourselves and one another accountable as community leaders to really think about strategic ways to engage students in our out of school time programming. But then, of course, unexpectedly, we experienced the longest government shutdown in the history of the U.S. And so what that did is it caused us to have to make some abrupt pauses and pivots in our work. And so if there's anything that I've learned in my role so far, it's that we can't be afraid of the pivot. We had to be accommodating to what was happening in our government at the federal level, and then really be mindful about how those regulations and actions were directly impacting our state and trickling down to the city of Worcester. And so it was almost like a case study of who is WEC and what could we become and what do we need to be based on what was currently happening in our government at the time. And so that being said, once things opened back up, we then pivoted back to our original plans. But of course, with timing, time of year, the unexpected length of the shutdown, we then had to reassess our plans and be a little bit more realistic with our visioning work. And so that is where we are today. And so as I shared previously, we will be hosting some events to really engage our educators and our community leaders on the impact of trauma on learning and the importance of doing this work through an equity-based lens. So our first opportunity this year will be on Saturday, January 31st, where we'll engage with parents and caregivers in the city to really talk about the strategic plan of Worcester Public Schools, which was co-written with Worcester Education Collaborative, the Worcester Regional Research Bureau, and Worcester Public Schools before I was the executive director in this role. And so we're going to be doing some updates for families and just giving some information about how it's going and get acclimated with the strategic plan and what we can do as a community to help move the work forward. And so if you're a parent or a caregiver who's watching, we hope to see you there. It will be at Worcester State University. And you can visit our social media and our website to see more details about that. But we are really excited about engaging in this work with you. We can't do it alone. And you are the reason why we are even in operation. And so please don't hesitate to attend any of our opportunities for families and parents. That is our first opportunity to engage. So as I mentioned earlier, we do have a FACES team, our family and community engagement specialists. And what they do is they help to mobilize the parent voice and community voice in the work of advocacy. And when we say advocacy, we really mean advocating for the policies that are relevant and timely for the students of Worcester Public Schools to help elevate and amplify the work that Worcester Public Schools is doing, and give WEC opportunities to collaborate with the district and really get to the ground level of what does it take to do this work well? What are families saying? What are parents, students, and community leaders saying? And the majority of our community partners also happen to be parents. And so we have rich data on how to really serve our students well and what the concerns of the parents and the community are. And so we're really excited about our work this year, our parent engagement workshop event, How to Navigate the School System, on Saturday, January 31st at Worcester State University. We're very excited. And later on, you'll hear more about our upcoming events and how you can engage and be part of the work that we're doing here at the Worcester Education Collaborative.
Unity Radio. Worcester, we gotcha.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, kids' teams, where you worship, work out, or any other place or group where you choose to belong. Communities can provide support when you need it, and even when you don't know you do. Like when it comes to preventing underage drinking and other substance use. Community members can be your eyes and ears when you're not with your kids and alert you to signs of potential problems. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
Hi, I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show on Unity Radio 97.9. Join me and my guest as we discuss topics on embracing our diverse cultural communities, the music, the arts, and healthy lifestyles. I'm Ernie Floyd, host of the Unity in the Community Show, Wednesdays at 3 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, host of Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9. Black in Business is a series of conversations with influential members of the Black business community. These entrepreneurs knows what it means to risk everything to create successful businesses and spark positive changes in the community. So join us. Again, I'm Suzanne Graham Anderson, also known as Positively Suzanne, right here on Black in Business, Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Unity Radio 97.9, Worcester's Community Connection.
Ever lose your keys? Is that normal aging, dementia, or something else? Fear often stops us from asking for a simple checkup from the neck up. Knowing your numbers, blood pressure, blood sugar, and cholesterol are common, but your cognitive numbers are also important. Request our free guide. It's filled with tips for better brain health, facts about dementia, and much more. Go to 1-800-DEMENTIA.org or call 1-800-DEMENTIA. Your brain will thank you.
Tune into The Sustainable Life with Susan Hewlett, and together we will find our way to a healthier, healing lifestyle by listening to empowering stories of overcoming our struggles. Join me, Susan Hewlett, on The Sustainable Life every Wednesday from 5 to 6 on Unity Radio 97.9 FM, Worcester's Community Connection. See you soon.
Let's talk, Worcester. Unity 97.9.
Welcome back to Elevate Worcester, the podcast of Worcester Education Collaborative. This is episode 1. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Herring, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. So for our last segment, we're just going to briefly talk through our most recent points of advocacy for 2025 and what we hope to accomplish for this next year. And then we're going to talk through some opportunities to engage with us at our upcoming events for 2026. So as I mentioned before, we did a lot of advocacy on literacy and the right to read bill. We're very excited about the outcome. So what that means is that all students will have access to high quality instructional materials, which will then hopefully lead to increasing their literacy outcomes. And so that effort is multifaceted. So we're engaging with our FACES team, who are mobilizing parents. We're hosting workshops and community forums for parents and community leaders to really get a sense of how they can support the increase of learning and literacy outcomes for all students. We recognize that during the pandemic and even beforehand, we saw a decline as a country, as a nation, in our literacy rates. And so our goal this year in the city of Worcester is to make sure that we're proactive in improving literacy outcomes and academic outcomes for all students. Our second point of advocacy and support in Worcester is to work with our coalition partners on the current graduation requirements. So recently, the MCAS was voted out as a graduation requirement in the state of Massachusetts. That is our statewide standardized assessment. And so right now, in collaboration with our governor's office, our commissioner of education, and secretary of education, we are meeting monthly at least to really talk about our current graduation requirements, the portfolio that was released by Governor Maura Healey's office, what that means for the state of Massachusetts and the city of Worcester. How can students in Worcester have the opportunity to really showcase what they know? How can we provide high quality educational opportunities for them? And how do we truly assess their readiness for high school and post-secondary life, even beyond graduation? So those are the conversations we'll be having this year. That is what our monthly equity roundtable meetings will be focused on, gathering more data points for the city and the state to really think about how to support students in Worcester well, and how to make sure that we are creating policies, systems, and just general protocols for education that is high quality, centered in equity, and done through a trauma-informed lens. Lastly, we want to talk to you about how you can stay connected with us and get involved. You can find us on Facebook, the WEC, Worcester Education Collaborative on Facebook, Worcester Education Collaborative on LinkedIn, and we're also on Instagram. You could also visit our website, where we'll be sharing news, updates, opportunities to collaborate with city and state stakeholders and partners. And we will be sharing on all our social media platforms opportunities to attend virtual webinars, community forums, and just opportunities to engage with all of the leaders in the world of education, statewide and locally, to really get all the voices at the table to think about how to best serve students of Worcester well. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in. We cannot wait to see you at our next episode in February to talk about the importance of Black folks, people of color, and historically marginalized populations in higher education and research. Thank you so much for tuning in to Elevate Worcester. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Herring, Executive Director of Worcester Education Collaborative. Thank you.